ahead and get started. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. My name is Audrey Flood. I am a development manager at the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership. Our main job is, in a nutshell, to help businesses, to support businesses in any way that we can. Our local businesses here in the city of Tiffin and in Seneca County. So during this crisis, we're trying to find creative ways to help support our businesses. And one of those ways is through this series of free webinars. This is the first one, so welcome everyone. Thanks for helping us kick it off. And we're just trying to cover many different topics that we think might be helpful to people and provide some information and value, and then also just provide a forum for some discussion and some questions so that we can all, get through this as best as we can together. So with that, that's kind of the purpose. That's who I am. And again, this is through the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership. If you'd like to see the rest of the webinars that are available, make sure you follow our Facebook page or go to our website. All right, now I will let the other two panelists that I have invited introduce themselves. Kim, do you want to go first and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Kim Raddison, and I have my own business, KKR Consult. It's located in downtown Tiffin, and my background's in human resources. I work a lot in leadership development, helping managers, especially first-time managers and CEOs, in leading their teams. I'm also a facilitator for Leadership Seneca County as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. Kit, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, so good afternoon. My name is Kit Tiell, and I am a financial advisor with Tiell Financial Group in Bascom. And I'm in business with my aunt, Debbie Tiell, who started the practice 25 years ago. And I'm also involved with TSEP on the Business Enhancement Committee for downtown. And I've been involved with that for 3 years now. Sorry, that was me. Turned off.
All right, thank you, Kit. Okay, so what we would like to do to kind of open things up, we all have some tips and some content, some material for you all, but we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of open up with any burning questions that you all have, some, kind of main areas that you'd like to focus on, or main topics. So please either put them in the chat box now, type them in the chat box, or raise your hand, and I will attempt to unmute your microphone so we can get some questions in there. So what kind of main questions do you all have?
And maybe as you're typing questions in as well, if you can let us know if you are a manager that's looking for tips on how to manage remotely, or if you're looking just for personal tips for yourself as an individual, or both.
Okay, we have our first question. This question comes from Bryce, so I have unmuted. So Bryce, what is your question?
What's up, crew? Hey, it's Bryce. Hey, so I know, Kim, you've been working from home kind of for a little bit, for a couple of years, to say the least. And I know, Kit, you have been for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Kim and Kit, what do you find so far your biggest challenges with the work from home life? Kim, I know you have like 7, 8 kids, so 9 I think today. So what I guess what the biggest challenges you guys have seen so far? And I know Kit's got a dog, so.
So thanks for the question, Bryce. Yeah, so I have worked from home for off and on for probably the last 10 or 12 years. I have an office now downtown, but I've always kept a home office just because of flexibility purposes. And I think for me, what I've found is a lot of times just being very open and honest if I'm jumping on a video call, or if I'm talking to a client, that I'll just be upfront. And most people that I work with know, and as Bryce has shared with all of you, I have lots of children. So I'll say, you might hear some background noise. Just ignore it. I will. They'll be fine. If the house is on fire, I'll cut the call. But otherwise, just there may be some background noise, and that takes away a lot of that pressure, I think, because you have that stress of like, I want this to be perfect, I want this to go perfectly well. And probably most of us have seen there's a video that kind of went viral of this guy who was like working from his home office. This was probably about a year ago, and he's doing this very professional like video chat, and I don't even know if you can really tell he's from his home office because he's got his bookshelves behind him, and all of a sudden this little baby like comes crawling across the floor. And you can see the guy's wife, like she crawls across the floor and tries to like drag the baby away, and the baby like sneaks back into it. Now that was for a television show. That was like a news program. So that was kind of a fail on his part. Most of us probably aren't in that high level of a situation. But I think just to be upfront, just so that people know, hey, this could happen, or maybe I could get cut off, or I'm not quite sure if my audio is working, or my dog might bark, or whatever it might be. I literally last week had to do a client call from my laundry room because I had a child in every other space possible in the house. And so I was talking and my knee bumped the button to like start the dryer. So it goes like, and I was just up front, like, so I'm working from my home office in my laundry room right now. So I apologize. So, just keep it real. We're all in that same situation. And I think if you can kind of break the ice with that too, like, hey, this isn't perfect. None of us are living in a perfect world right now. It's never been perfect, but we especially know it's not right now. Just be real with it. And then I think that just automatically like, just kind of brings things down a little bit. So that would be my biggest suggestion, especially when you're working with others over video or phone chat. So I'll turn it over to you now, Kit.
Yeah, so I think you hit it spot on, Kim, just saying we're all in this together, and most of this is all new for us working from home. I've never worked from home in my life, and now all of a sudden it's week 5 that I'm doing this, and it gets easier and easier. For me, the most challenging thing for week 1 was getting my technology in order. And thankfully, we've got a brilliant IT guy who helped us do that. But step 1 was getting my office in order, and so I have my laptop where I actually remote into my computer at the office. So it's as if I'm there at the office working, but I control it from my home. And I think second thing was getting my phone set up so I don't have the best cell phone signal here at my house, but I do it all voice over IP, so using an internet phone to do it, which seems to work much, much better. And now getting on board with all these Zoom meetings and go-to meetings and how all of this works. And I say I've never attended more Zoom meetings than I have in the last month, and I'm feeling pretty professional about it now. But there's all kinds of tips, and I know you can upload fake backgrounds for your home in case you don't have a nice looking home office. You can upload a fake background, or I brought in a plant to make mine look a little nicer. To give a nice backdrop. But for me, just getting the technology up and running was the most difficult. But now that I've been doing it, I'm more comfortable with it, and it works just fine.
Great. Thank you both for that. Yeah, and thanks for the question, Bryce. Are there any other questions at this time before we let our 2 panelists kind of dive into what they've prepared? We, again, are just looking for kind of what your main areas that you're interested are, or any ways we can be the most helpful. So go ahead and type those, either the questions or the chat, or raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Otherwise, doesn't look like there are any at the moment. If any come up throughout the webinar, please just throw them in there and we will get them answered. But otherwise, I think, Kim, we'll just have you kind of dig into the tips and materials that you prepared for everyone.
Yeah, so I'm going to, I probably end up jumping back and forth a little bit between working from home as an individual and maybe a little bit from the perspective of being a manager. So if some of you out there are managers, you might have a few helpful tips. And even if you're not, you might find a few helpful things that you'll be able to share with your manager going back to work. I think first and foremost, and this is kind of something that, and probably Kit and Audrey at some point, if you've maybe heard me talk about this, this is outside of working from home, but it can be applied to working from home. The idea is when you go in to your office every day, wherever that office might be now, is what is it that I want to accomplish today? What's the number one thing that I need to get done? And secondly, and maybe it should be first, is what is it that my boss needs me to get done today? What is the most important thing? And I've taught this as a course of, it's called Eat That Frog. It's a book by Brian Tracy, I believe, where he talks about, when you go into work or into any situation, what is the one thing that you're probably dreading the most? That's probably the thing you need to get done the most. What is that big ticket item that if I get this done, if the rest of my day goes to crap, I will feel fine because I'll know that I've accomplished this. And that's where you should start. It is also important to make sure that you and your boss are on the same page with that. And especially now that you're not probably working face-to-face so much anymore with your team. So to make sure you have that interaction regularly to say, okay, this is what I'm working on, and just kind of that check-in. Because it can be really easy to get off task, or it can be really easy to be starting on a project. Even when we're not working remotely, it can be easy to kind of get off on something and think, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be focused on. And then suddenly, you come back together as a group and they're like, oh, that's not important anymore. Or no, this is really the most important thing you should be focused on. So ask those questions. Ask them now, especially since you're working remote, but carry that back with you whenever we do go back to whatever our new normal becomes. That is probably first and foremost. And like I said, jump on to that thing first, right away, get it done, because there's such a sense of accomplishment that it's going to propel you forward for the rest of the day. And you're not going to be dreading it. You're not going to be putting it off. You're not going to be finding every other reason under the sun why you shouldn't be doing it. And especially now that we're home, there are so many other things that we can be doing besides working on that one thing we really don't want to. So that would be my first and probably most important tip. And then again, as a manager, take that and make sure that you are communicating regularly with your employees, even just little check-ins. Hey, just wanted to see what you were working on today. Not that you're checking up on them, but just to make sure we're all on the same page. Do you have any questions? If they're working on a project and you normally would be able to maybe sit down and look at it with them, have them share it with you occasionally, just so everybody kind of stays connected. I think that's very important. So that's probably my number one tip. Number two, and hopefully by now, everyone has kind of established what your work schedule looks like, and the expectations of your office. It's very, very different for a lot of people. I work for myself, so my hours are, pretty much entirely up to me. If I'm not with a client, I can work at any time. And I'm a night owl, and I've just learned to accept that. So I send everybody else to bed, and then I go and I start doing my work, and that's when I'm most productive. For other people, they know they're most productive in the morning. You may have set times that you have to be working. Go ahead and utilize those times. But if there's flexibility to it, you can kind of make it work within your day. But that being said, also keep some structure. So, right now I'm at home with 5 kids, and fortunately we're on spring break this week. But I'm grades 8 down through kindergarten, and so we're doing homeschool. So we get up in the morning, we sleep in a little bit because, like I said, I'm a night owl. But we get our work done in the morning. We take our lunch break, and then every afternoon we go out and take a walk. I need it to clear my head. I let my kids kind of run wild. They need to just get outside, and they just need to be in some fresh air. And we know that's our routine. And so they look forward to that. And we all look forward to having a routine. So making sure for yourself you have that routine. And if you're a manager, create some kind of routine with your employees, whether it's checking in with them daily at the same time, weekly, whatever that is. try to just create that sense of routine that you have. I mean, like I said, I'm just taking advantage of the fact that I don't like getting up early in the morning, so I don't, because there's nothing that says I have to right now, unless I have an early client I have to talk to. So create a new normal for yourself and allow yourself to have that little bit of space and freedom. We need it with the kind of chaos that we're living in right now. All right, I've been talking for a while. Anything, Kit, you want to jump in with from what I've said so far?
I just to add on to what you said about the flexibility, I think that's one thing I'm really liking is that you can be at home and you've got so much flexibility to create the day that works best for you. So if you want to have lunch and then go, if it's sunny outside, great, go outside. Today's not been so nice, so I've stayed inside all day, but I've definitely taken, 20 minutes, go for a walk, feel so much better. I get up and go do some chores, wash some dishes or anything in between just to break the day up. And I really like it. So just to reinforce that point, absolutely. I think it's that's one benefit of being able to work from home is the flexibility. To add to your time structure, I think that's important. Kind of having a routine. Most people work best with a routine. And so I think having some sort of fixed points through the day that you know what you're doing. It's like one thing we do is in my office is at 8:30 every morning we have a call with the office. We all dial in together and that's how we kick our mornings off with an office meeting, just to and also keeping lines of communication open. So that's my little bits to add to what you talked about, Kim.
And I think what's kind of neat, like you said.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Let's go to that.
Okay, yeah, we can.
I was just going to follow up saying with the flexibility piece is keep note of these things that are really beneficial to you right now. And when we all go back into the real world again, try to implement some of those things. This isn't just like crisis mode that we have to be into and then all of a sudden, we'll flip a switch and we'll go back to whatever we were doing, before all of this. We don't have to go back to that. You may find that you work better remotely, at times. You might want to build that in. If you're a manager, you might want to find ways to build that into your employee schedules. If you're an employee, you might want to talk to your supervisor, even just about, some different ideas. Hey, maybe it is important that once a week as a group, you guys even get out and go for a walk or something, when you come back to work. I don't know, whatever that might be. But be aware of what's really working well for you right now and implement some of those things whenever you go back into working in an office. Now is a great time to experiment with things.
That was great. Yeah, thank you both for that. We'll jump in. We have a couple of questions now, and then we can go back to that. So, okay, this question comes from Molly. During this time, I've had to rely on others, specifically my boss, to do some of those physical pieces of my job, printing, copying, scanning, etc. How do I handle asking for those pieces, balancing not inconveniencing that person, but also maintaining my standard of quality? Either of you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah. What was the beginning part of the question again?
That during this time, she is having to rely on others, like her boss, to do some of the physical pieces of the job, like printing, copying, scanning. So she's trying to balance not wanting to inconvenience them, but also having her own standard of quality.
Right. Yeah, I
can answer maybe a little bit if you want me to maybe start and you can jump in. So I would say, and this is really interesting. This is from Molly. So I'm assuming Molly is female. I'm actually going to be leading a seminar on Wednesday, a Zoom seminar talking about women in leadership. And one thing, and not that I want to kind of blanket everybody, but I fall into this pool as well. As women, we can tend to be perfectionists, and that doesn't always serve us well. So this might be the opportunity for us to learn at times to lower our expectations. And I hate to say that because I call myself a recovering perfectionist. Some days are better than others. I think once you're a perfectionist, you're always a perfectionist, and you just have to be aware of it. But I think if you're looking at, things have to be at this level of quality. And, and I feel bad asking my boss to do this because I know he or she is handling 500 other different things, and we've kind of reversed roles now, right? To where they're kind of becoming now, my administrative help. I think now is the time when you say, what are things that are really non-negotiables? What are things that I really need to have just so? And what things do I just want to have this way because that's who I am? Because that's how I like things, and it's more about me maybe than it is about what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. So I would take this time to really challenge yourself there. And look at, okay, I don't think anybody expects anything to be perfect right now. We're just not in that situation. So now more than ever, you can give yourself a little bit of a pass and say, the world's not perfect. I'm not perfect either, and I may hand out some things that aren't perfect. But here are some of my non-negotiables, and here's my list of things that it'd be nice if it turns out this way, but if it doesn't, it's not going to change the outcome of what it is I'm trying to accomplish. That would be my suggestion. And again, use this as a time to grow. Use this as a time to maybe challenge yourself in some other areas. That's my tip.
I would add, so in our office, I think we're all doing different roles than what we're used to. And so I think we're all understanding. We get it that these times are just not like normal. And so we're all chipping in and doing what we can at this time. Some of what we're doing is job swapping, instead of our normal roles. Hey, I understand I need to do this because I'm physically next to the printer, so I'm able to do these things, but just kind of in exchange, then I'll pick up these jobs that you would normally do, and to kind of get some new cross training from that and pick up new skills because you're asked to do different jobs. But yeah, we've definitely had to do that in our office, and I think everyone just sure, as long as everyone's on board and has the attitude that we'll get this done. And yeah, I think Kim, you've covered the details part and growing there.
Thanks. Yeah, those are both great answers to that question. So we do have another tip that someone else shared that we can provide here. And I will say, it looks like we have had a couple people join since the beginning. So just a reminder, we are taking questions as we go. Either type them or raise your hand and we can put you on to talk. And I did forget to mention, in partnership with my organization, the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership, this event is also in partnership with the Seneca County Young Professionals. So I see we have quite a few younger people that are members of our organization that are joining the call. So thank you to all of you that are joining as well. So if you have anything pertaining to that as a young professional, please feel free to share those questions as well. Okay, so the tip that we have, this tip was shared by Nick. Having things like a shared project status spreadsheet or to-do lists are nice to track everyone's progress and let other people get to see where projects are at, especially with people working more flex time. It lets you cut some meetings out, but also keeps everyone informed and on the same page. I think that's a great tip for utilizing technology. You guys both kind of talked about that. And like you said, Kit, since you don't normally work from home, setting up the technology that you needed in order to make this work is really important. And though it's been, several weeks, I think some people could definitely maybe, set up some more technology like this using software or a spreadsheet to be able to keep the team more connected and keep the team kind of, together on the same page. And on that note of keeping the team kind of connected and together, Kit, I know your organization has done some really creative kind of team bonding or team connection activities since you've been spread out and not able to be together. Do you want to comment on some of those?
Yes, absolutely. So that was this would be my biggest takeaway, is about communication. And so for me, I suppose there's two parts of it. One is communicating with my clients, and then the other is communicating with the other office staff. And so kind of on that point with our office, we're a team of 9, and we're used to seeing each other every day. And we're a very social office. Every Friday we have lunch together. The office buys lunch every Friday, and we all eat together. We do outings together, and we set goals, and we reach those goals. We'll go to pregame and celebrate, or go to Empire for lunch. And so we like to do very social things in the office. And during these unsocial times and being apart, we just wanted to keep that going. So the first Friday we were apart, we had a happy hour. So as I said, each morning we kick off our day with a meeting call. We all joined that call, but we also at the same time, my aunt had drove around to everyone's house and delivered a bottle of bourbon. And so through the afternoon. So when it came time, we all dialed in at 4:30 and on a Friday, and kind of just had that bottle there provided by the office, but then could just debrief on the week and talk about, share some funny stories of client calls, or something else that happened in the office or at home. There's always funny learning experiences with the dog or the baby running behind you. But so that's how we stayed connected. And then the following week for lunch, because we weren't together, we had pizzas delivered to everyone's houses. And so then we didn't join in a call, but it was just having that together. Everyone called in their orders for their pizza, and they were all delivered. So that just kind of makes it fun and keeps us connected. Just trying to do those same things that we normally would. So still building on the communication, we send more emails now than we ever did, and texting each other or calling each other, but having that communication. So I think this shared spreadsheet does that same thing, communicates to each other what kind of job load you have, so you know who needs more work, who has too much. You can kind of balance that. You do the same thing through emails, and where normally we would maybe just turn around and yell to our coworker, now it's lots of emails going back and forth saying something's done or this needs work done. And then I suppose kind of switching over to clients, it's the other kind of big branch of this communication. Is for us, we're in a very people business, investing clients' money. And we always see clients face to face. That's 70% of my day is face to face in front of clients. And so now we're having to work and adapt. And so one thing we're doing is, we're doing everything over the phone, but having these Zoom meetings, because you can get so much more when you can see somebody's face and their reactions. It's so much more powerful than just a phone call or just an email. And so these Zoom meetings are the next best thing to a face-to-face meeting. You have that much better connection with somebody on the other side. So that's been helpful. We send more emails. We probably communicate much better now with clients than we ever did in the past. We host weekly calls on the markets, because what I do, the stock market has been crazy. People have lost lots of money, and there's lots of anxiety around that. So having that open line of communication and that steady line of communication with clients has been so important. So we host a call once a week. Thursdays at 11 is when we do it. And clients have the opportunity to dial in and to ask us questions and just to understand what's going on. Of course, continue to post on Facebook, and then for us reaching out to our clients one-on-one and making sure that they know we're here. And we also did an email just updating them on our office procedures. We are still open if clients need to deposit money, withdraw money, but just communicating that with clients so they know what our new office operation will be and how to contact us and how to access us. So being very clear on how that works. So for me, communication would be my biggest tip. And I understand everyone's business is different, so how that gets applied to everyone's own business, but there's lots of ways to do it. And I think these Zoom meetings, social meeting, however it's done, is amazing. And I think it's definitely take advantage of it.
Yeah, thank you, Kit. That was great.
Yeah,
We did have one comment in response to Molly. Let's see. Mary Ann would like to share to Molly something that might be helpful is making a list of all the things you need from someone. If you give it to them a day or two in advance of needing it, that way you're not asking them to stop what they're doing to help you. So that's a nice tip that Mary Ann wanted to share back on that topic. Switching focus a little bit to something that I know you both, live with other people in your homes, families and children and a dog. And so some of the things that are shared as kind of best practices for this, how do you communicate your kind of boundaries? We talked about having rituals and routines, but if people are trying to interact with you and ask you to do things from within your home during the day, that can definitely create some issues. So do you guys have any tips for, do you signal, okay, I'm having a break and now is an okay time to interact and talk, or we're taking a break together? Do you stay on the same schedules as the rest of your house? Do you have an open door and a closed door? Do you hang a sign up? Or what are some kind of ways you signal when you're working and when you're not, or when it's okay to be in contact with the people that you have in your space as we're working from home?
My husband still goes to work every day. So he's not here. So it's my children and I, but even sometimes just my husband will call to check in. What I do is I make sure we have that kind of routine for the kids, especially for them doing school. So for anybody that has children, a routine for them is good when they're doing schoolwork. And so they kind of know what those boundaries are. My son even woke up this morning and he woke up early because he wanted to go and play. So I want to play before we start school. And I said, well, you have today off. It's the day after Easter. He's like, oh. So they can we can very quickly get into those routines. For me, the way that I kind of set my time up is when there is an absolute, like, no one is to interrupt at this time, like this would be one of those times. I'm physically behind a locked door just because children, pets, adults, we can all forget that, right? And we get so involved in what we're doing. And especially, if you have spouses or someone, two adults working in the same space, it's like, I feel like I'm here at my office, doing my own thing. And I kind of forgot that you're still here and that you're actually at your own office. So you can very quickly be like, hey, could I do this real quick, or could I borrow this? And it's like, no, I'm still at my own office. I'm still doing my thing. So I let everyone knows in advance, usually at least the day of, if not even sometimes like Sunday night. I'll go through and I'll say, okay, so these are the times I'm going to be like unavailable. And fortunately, I have older children, so they have the expectation of, you're babysitting, I'm not home. That is the way, you have to interact with one another. And, even like I said with my husband, even though he will call, just to check in, especially just the way things are, a little strange now. But he knows, I'll say, hey, I'm going to be on this call today from, at 3:30 to 4:30. Okay, great. Just so they kind of have those expectations. Now, for me, I have to have a little bit more flexibility because I do have young children that are floating around the house. So I try to keep things flexible for them. And I'm usually, working on things that it can be interrupted. I'll let them know I'm working on something, but if it's important, you can come and talk to me. Again, though, I'm a night owl. So for me personally, I do better when everybody goes to sleep, and I know that's my dedicated time. So I do shift my schedule a little bit that way. But otherwise, people know in advance when the non-negotiable times are. And I do, like I said, I literally lock a door, and everyone understands these are not the times, you know, to come and talk to me. So it has to be, you have to really, I think, lay it out depending upon who you have in your home, because we're just not used to this environment. If you're used to working remotely and you have someone else, a spouse or a partner or someone else, roommate that's working remotely, you've grown accustomed to that. But these are our new situations and new times, and so we have to give each other a little bit of slack and also be a little bit more prepared and a little bit more intentional to make sure that everybody knows what our schedules look like from day to day and sometimes hour to hour.
Yeah, I think about allowing more slack back and forth. And I know if I need to talk with somebody, like my aunt, for example, usually I would just swing my chair around and look to see if she's busy. Now I can't do that. And I know it's inconvenient if I just call her because she's in the middle of something. So I just send a friendly little text saying, call me when you got a minute, I'm free. And so just, I guess, being sensitive to that in that way. I've got a calendar, a shared calendar that everyone else in the office can see. And so if I've got a conference call or a webinar or client call, then everyone knows that that time is blocked out. So don't even try to call me. So that works well. And that shared calendar is so nice. So if a client does call and wants to set up a meeting, then they've got access and they can just go ahead and jot it down there and just book me in for that. I think kind of here in the house, so I got a dog and my partner's here working from home too. So we've each got our separate parts of the house that we work from. That's our home office, and which is really important because we're both on calls and having webinars at the same time. And so just knowing that I'm not being too loud, and sometimes if I am, my door to my room gets shut. And so then I know that's a signal to me that bring it down a little bit, or but usually I keep the door open, and I just try to keep the noise to a minimum so it's not interrupting everyone else. And yes, the dog comes in, lets me know when he wants pet or wants a little treat. But, yeah.
That's great. Thank you both. Those are really good answers. One more clarifying question that we got from one of our participants on that, and then I have another question for you all on a different topic. So this question comes from Kaylee. Following up to the previous conversation, I have a 7-month-old and I can't set boundaries with them. Do you have any tips on how to focus work when she needs so much of my attention at that age?
Ooh, you probably got good tips for this.
Yes, I have definitely lived through this, and I actually had a flex schedule for a while when I had an infant, and that's just the most important thing, that flexing your schedule. Unfortunately, you can't let your 7-month-old know that you need to be working from 9 to 5 tomorrow, and that you'll have a break at 10 and 2 o'clock and a half an hour for lunch. So again, that's, for me, I found that flexibility just became the most important thing. That was the name of the game. And that's where I go back to even the very first thing I talked about when we started this, is what's the most important thing that you have to get done today? So you may have your list of 10 things you want to accomplish. What prioritize? There's something I know that I have to get to a coworker by the end of the day. I promised a client they would get this. I need to have this prepared because we have a presentation tomorrow, or whatever it might be. Get those things done when you can. If you're hopefully, at 7 months, there's a typically some type of a routine there. So if you know that your 7-month-old is going to wake up every day at 7 o'clock, I hate to say this because this is hard for me, but maybe you get up at 5:30 and you get a solid hour and a half done of the things you know you have to get done. And then from there, you kind of adjust and you work, through naps as much as you can. I will be honest, there were times I napped whenever my child was napping, and I mean, technically it was the work day, but I knew there's sometimes I still nap now because I can, right? But there's times that I know I'm going to be working into the night. I know that if your 7-month-old goes to bed at 7 o'clock, that might be part of your work schedule then. And it's not ideal, and it's hard, especially if you have other people in your household, and especially if, you're sending them to bed and you're going to work. This isn't permanent. This won't last forever. It might be tough now, but you kind of have to do what you have to do. And I mean, I lived through that. I spent 2 years working a full-time job, flexing my schedule like that, where I had some set hours, but I had days where I would try to just make my return calls when I knew the nap had just started. And again, it's that being honest with people as well, where you might say, hey, just so you know, I've got a 7-month-old sleeping. I think we should be good for 20 minutes, but you know how that goes. And everyone is much more forgiving, hopefully, or should be right now, and understandable that, these things are just going to come up, and they're going to happen. If there's scheduled things you have to be a part of, a few things are, try to schedule them when you think nap times will be. Do your best. Don't put yourself on video. Mute yourself whenever you possibly can. And try to make those calls, around a schedule. Maybe part of it is if you're working with clients, maybe if they're even available in the evening, if you have maybe your partner or someone else in your household is outside working, if they come home in the evening, try to schedule some of those calls for the evening. Again, it's not ideal, but your 7-month-old doesn't care. They're not concerned right now that, at supper time, you're talking to someone as opposed to being with them. Move things around as you need to. And just make it work, and just know that this is temporary. Things will go back again to some form of normalcy, and just do your best. And remember, I truly believe everyone is very forgiving at this time. And I found whenever I would mention that, I usually got I remember those days. And then right away, you've now turned that into an opportunity to make a connection with somebody. So use that to your advantage, when you can, and have that conversation. And if they don't have kids, talk about the dog, right? You can connect over that. Oh yeah, you can't control dogs like you can't control kids. You never know when they're going to talk, or when they're going to bark, or when they're going to cry. And and just be lighthearted about it. Just be very open and honest right from the get-go.
I can second that. I think that's a great response, Kim. And for my office, we are very understanding. There's several that have young kids, and so they've got the same thing where they want to be next to mom, and so mom's got to balance those two things. And we are all so understanding. And when I hear a kid crying in the background, it just makes me feel, I just have so much compassion. I think, okay, but don't worry, I'll do that for you right now. I can see you've got your hands full at the moment. Or, hey, there's no rush on this, Amanda. Get to it when you can. So, so I agree. People are very understanding, and most of the times things are not that urgent where it can wait, be flexible as well.
Thank you both. I think hopefully that was very helpful, because I know there are several other people on the call that also have very young children. So hopefully that was really helpful discussion. Okay, I wanted to ask a little bit about your physical workspace and physical setup and routine, that kind of thing. But first, we do have another question from Bryce. So he should be able to speak now.
Perfect. So obviously a lot of uncertainty, but I think one thing that's clear, that there eventually will be a light at the end of the tunnel. I think as a result, we've kind of evolved our process and transformed who we are. For example, I've helped, I think, more people over the age of 70 get on Zoom before than in my entire life. Funny story, last week I helped a guy get on Zoom for about 45 minutes, and then he jumps on and he throws AirPods in. So he really threw me off, to say the least. But yeah, obviously, Kit, you talk about most of your visits are face to face. Kim, I know you've worked with some folks who telecommute in your past. How do you see, COVID-19 transforming our work lives post when this is all over? Do you see that changing in your industry, Kit? Kim, do you see that changing how you deal with clients when this is all over with?
I can go first this time. So absolutely, I think there will be a lot more people working from home in the future. And so my experience of this is I've never worked from home, and nobody in our office really did. And I think it was just, things were going fine, so why create something new? But because of this, we had to go out and buy all new Surface Pros for everyone to be able to work from home. We've had to spend a lot of money to get up and running like this. And so, hey, now we've done it. We've spent this money. We might as well continue using this equipment. And it really is a good thing, because in our industry, we need to have these contingency plans in place. So what if we have a tornado or a fire at the office and everything's destroyed? We need to be prepared to be able to pick up the next day and keep on going. Clients depend on that. And so this has been a really great thing that has forced us to get that contingency plan in place and be able to say 100% to clients, yes, we are prepared. If a fire strikes or a flood or whatever it is, we've got the equipment to stay at home and to keep on ticking. So yeah, that's one benefit. So before I lived here, I was in London for 7 years, and their office space is really, really expensive. And so most companies encouraged, and some even required, their employees to work from home 1 day a week. And it was, if everyone works from home 1 day a week, that's 20% less office space that we need. And office space is really expensive. And so they encouraged everyone to. And I think definitely a trend that's going to happen. And I think 5 years from now, everyone will be working from home much more. And I think this has just accelerated that. So we'll be working from home a lot sooner. And for a lot of people, you're more productive. I can save an hour a day, 30 minutes driving in the office, 30 minutes driving home. So that's an extra hour I can be working, doing things. So there's definitely benefits to that. I think for us, the other big benefit is doing a lot more Zoom meetings, where before we would have clients that would request that, our younger clients, our millennial clients, and they're fine not coming into the office, but we were never up to speed, and we just never took the time to actually get that in place to accommodate those clients. And the other thing was the expense, just another monthly subscription. But hey, now we've got it. Now we'll be able to offer that to clients who prefer to do business that way.
Yeah, and I've been working remotely, I guess, for over 10 years. And I have some of, I do a lot of coaching. So, sometimes people will say, isn't that hard to create that relationship with someone when you're not seeing them face to face? Some of the clients that I am closest to, I've never met in person, and I've been working with them for 10 years. I work nationally, internationally, and it's surprising how, if you learn how to communicate correctly, and if you take the time for a little bit of that small talk over a phone call or over a Zoom meeting, as you would if you were face to face. So you have to just remind yourself of that, right? Like, things can feel very formal or sterile if you're not looking face to face with one another, but just remind yourself that you're there to build that connection. And it's just something I've been very comfortable with. I have a home office, but I've stopped in to pick up a few books here or there, but I haven't really been in my office for the last month. And for me, I haven't really skipped a beat. I don't know if this is an advertisement for the Surface, Microsoft Surface Pro, but maybe we need them to be, because that's what I work with too, because it's so portable, it's so easy, you can really customize it. And I always have it with me, and I just carry it in my purse. And so my office is wherever the computer lands, really. And I do think that we will continue to see this type of communication. I don't know what, international travel will look like in the future, if we will travel as freely as we have. My family came home from a cruise on February the 3rd, and I was really glad it wasn't any later than that, because literally when we docked, the first cruise ships were being quarantined. So I don't know, what that type of travel will look like anymore. How much people will be willing or want to travel for work. So I think to Bryce, to your question, I think we will definitely see an increase. Just in the last, less than 10 years, we've gone from people who regularly telecommute or, make it a part of their day, has gone from less than 20% to getting closer to 50%. So I think we'll see after this, it's going to make another big leap, because a lot of times you do it, right, in London, you do it because you have to, because it's just too expensive. So here, especially in Seneca County, that's not an issue. We've got space and we've relatively expensively, and so we all spread ourselves out. We've never had a reason that we had to worry about not meeting face to face. And I think now that we're all getting a taste of it, we're going, oh, well, maybe I'm not going to do it all the time. But yeah, it'd be nice if I had a day a week or 2 days a week. And like I said, I think employers I worked with were maybe a little more on the cutting edge, where 10 years ago, I was doing it. I had a flexible schedule. I would go into the office, 3 days a week. I'd work from home 2 days a week. And I think we definitely will see that more and more through this experience.
Awesome. Great question again, Bryce. So let's see. I had one or two more things that I can ask our panelists, unless there are any other questions. So I'm going to read one more helpful feedback that we got from a participant. But while I'm doing that, please feel free, any closing questions as we kind of wrap up here. We're coming up to an hour. Again, either raise your hand or type them in, and keep them coming as we wrap up here. So Carrie wanted to say on the point of having young children or an infant around. She said you can set up stations for a child like the 7-month-old. Pack and play, bouncer, TV time, walker, etc. This is how I did it with children under age 3, 3 children under age 3. So that's another great tip for setting up those different stations to help you, again, with the routine and occupying small children. So thank you for that, Carrie. Okay, are there any other questions from the group? I don't see any at the moment, but again, keep them coming. Raise your hand or type them in. Another thing that I wanted to ask you all about as we wrap up is tell me about your kind of physical workspace at home. I know this is something that I've been continuing to try to improve as we have been working from home. Of, how do I set this up? Do I use a desk? Do I move around the house? Do you all use the same space every day? Do you kind of move around? What kind of, I know you said you're both using a Surface Pro, so that's a really good physical attribute to have for your working from home routine. But what else do you use as far as making sure you have a comfortable but also functional work environment at home? Any tips from both of you on how to kind of help us all set that up a little bit better?
Go first, Kim.
Sure, I can start because I've had a lot of experience with it. I have always tried to have a dedicated space, and it's changed a lot for me. Again, as children have grown, I had a guest room, and then suddenly that became a kids room, and I got bumped out of there. And actually, before I got on the call today, I actually am creating another space in our house because I have 5 children, and so my oldest daughter took over my desk with her schoolwork. So I decided, this being Easter break, we're building an 8-foot table for the kids that we're going to split in half, and we'll move them both there, and then I'll get my desk back. But I find, and I kind of use the same rules maybe that I would if I were working in a normal office space. So think of yourself as being at the office. I typically like to have my desk, my area, everything's where I know it is, where I want it to be. People also know where things are in my office. So if I say run and grab this account or this folder, they can do that. But then sometimes when you're at the office, occasionally you need inspiration, or you need to get away from that because you're working on something important, or you're trying to have more of a creative outlet. So at those times, I allow myself to move around a little bit. My office space right now is in our basement. And we just have one little window well, and there's not a whole lot to see other than grass and maybe the tops of a tree if you peek just right. So sometimes I'm like, hey, if it's just me in the house, I'm gonna come upstairs and I'm gonna just plop down at the kitchen table for a little bit and work from there, because I have this one thing I want to focus on and I want to get away from everything else, which was typical when I if I'm working from my office downtown. I have my desk space that I work at, but it's a room over from windows. So sometimes I'm like, hey, I want to go and I want to, see the sunshine, and I want to spread all my things out on a conference room table. And so I'll do that. So I just kind of carry over that idea of what you have at your normal office to kind of that home office environment. But I think it is important that you have a dedicated space so that you can walk away from it as well. Because I found for me, I definitely fell into that habit of, you're kind of always on, because if there's no delineation between home, you're always at home and you're always at work, and that's not always very healthy. So I have a workspace that I can kind of close, put away in my mind, it's gone, and then I go ahead and go upstairs, and it's a whole different world, and I've made my commute up 12 steps. So I think it's important that we do have kind of that separation there as well. So I don't have any plants though, Kit. So you gotta tell us about your decorating there.
Yeah. So my physical space is a bedroom, spare bedroom, but it's a home office, and I think you put it very well, Kim. It's pretty much, this is the setup that I have at the real office. I've got my desk with, for me, I need multiple monitors. I wish I had more. I've got my laptop and I've got an additional monitor that's split screens. So for me, having multiple screens is really important. I've got 4 screens at work. I've cut down to just 2, so making sacrifices, but I've tried to make it as similar as possible to what I have at home or what I have at the office. And yeah, I like having it in a separate room where at the end of the day, I just get up and walk out the door and it's kind of left behind. And I rarely ever come back. When the day's over, the day's over. I don't come back in this room, and I keep it separate. So then work on other things. So, with these Zoom meetings, you do want whatever is seen in the back to be kind of sort of presentable, because it is a reflection on you. So I added a little plant, but do you know that Zoom has where you can upload a background if your home office isn't the most pretty, or you can't, you got to share an office with someone else, then yeah, you can do that. Yeah, I think some did up really nice and just said, recreate your space that you normally work with.
Yeah. Thank you both. Again, those were great answers to that question. And if you don't have available a separate room or a basement or something like that, I've definitely heard a lot of tips about make it a workspace that, like Kim mentioned and like Kit mentioned, you can get away from at the end of the day so that you don't feel stuck like you're just working there all evening. You do need to have something that helps you kind of leave or have a commute home, whether that's just shutting your laptop and putting it away. If you have to just work in the kitchen or the living room, you can definitely still make some of these things work that our panelists were describing. Make sure that you do have kind of a cutoff routine, a workday shutdown routine where you kind of put things away and put them out of sight so that you're not tempted to just continue working. So you can definitely make things work even if you don't have the type of spaces that they described. So, okay, well, we have come up to an hour and I haven't seen more questions come through in the last few minutes. So it looks like we will go ahead and wrap up then. I want to thank all the participants, the great questions and the tips that you guys were able to share. And then I also want to thank our two panelists very much for their insight and their experiences with this. This was very helpful, I know personally for me, so I hope for everyone else as well. And if you would like to get in touch with any of us, I can connect you to either of them. I'll leave it up to you if you want to invite people to just connect through me or what you'd like to do. But yeah, just in closing, again, we are all in this together, just like we opened. So if any of us can be of support for you all in working from home, we'd love to do that in any way. So good luck to everyone. And do either of you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share?
No, I'm curious what the next session is.
What's that?
I'm curious what the next session is. Is it planned with times and
Yes.
title?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Kit. While I'm pulling that up, Kim, did you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, just be kind to yourself and to everybody else. Like I said, we're all in this together, and I think that's what makes it a little bit easier. I'm not the only one going through it. Kit's not the only one going through it. We're all going through this, so just remind yourself of that when things are tough. Everybody gets it, and things aren't going to be perfect, but we're going to do the best that we can, and that's okay. And you know what? And someday things will be back to normal and we'll be like, man, remember when we were able to just work from home and, we had this and that, and it was so nice. So take it for what it is and reconnect with the people that are in your household right now. Pick up a book, go, or go play some video games, go do something that, you wanted to do, relax and have a good time.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, thank you both. Yeah, so for any young professional members that are still with us, our next event for that group will be a quarantine movie night coming up this weekend. So little shout out for that. Please see the Young Professionals Facebook page, as I believe currently still we're having the vote on which movie we will all watch together. So go and find that and jump on and we'll have the movie night together through Netflix. As for this webinar series through the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership, I will go ahead and give you the ones that are happening tomorrow will be in the morning. We have, let's see, 10 a.m. tomorrow. We have creative solutions for adjusting your business. So how to take your business model and make it work a little differently in this time. And we have some different local businesses that have been doing that are going to share some tips on that. And then in the afternoon tomorrow, let's see, we have the health and sanitation one. So we have the health commissioner coming on to share with you how to really take the safety of your employees and your customers seriously for if you're open right now, for what you have going on right now in your setup, and then for the rest of us, once you open back up, what to do about sanitation and health. So hopefully those will be helpful. Then there are several other webinars throughout the rest of this week and also early next week on different topics like mental health, some financial assistance, marketing and social media, rural and agriculture, and technology tools. So if you're interested in any of those, please go see our website or our Facebook page again, which is the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership. So, okay. I think that'll do it for us. So thank you both again so much, and thanks to our participants as well. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah.